Welcome inside the Pat Bowlen Fieldhouse for Broncos Country Connected. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Broncos general manager George Paton has struck a deal in principle with the Seattle Seahawks for quarterback Russell Wilson. With more on what this trade means for the future of this franchise, let's check in with Lionel Bienvenu, Troy Rank, and Ryan Harris.
Welcome to our Denver 7 segment brought to you by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Ryan and Troy, wow. Just wow. Woo! The Broncos' search for a quarterback ended Tuesday morning when George Paton found what he was looking for, a franchise quarterback. Ryan, you were on the radio when you heard about Russell Wilson coming to Denver. What was your initial reaction?
Joy, elation. It became George Paton Day. March 8th is George Paton Day, forever moving forward here in Colorado. It was just a big swing, especially after the news that Aaron Rodgers was going to stay in Green Bay. So what a moment, what an hour for Denver sports fans. But most importantly, congratulations to Russell Wilson coming here to a team that expects to win a championship and has the pieces to do so as well.
Yeah, maybe the biggest hour in Broncos history right there. Troy, you had just written a big story about Aaron Rodgers returning to Green Bay. Boo. And less than an hour later, you had to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, listen, it was as crazy as it comes because you're talking about two of the best players in the NFL. So my reaction was absolute jubilation. The Broncos are back, baby. They're relevant again. It has been a drought around here of grapes of wrath proportion. You're talking about 6 years with no playoffs, 5 straight losing seasons. They weren't on Monday Night Football last year. Guess what? That is all over now. They are in the national conversation. They are relevant. WrestleMania is in Denver.
Troy just said it. We're back, Ryan. Back to relevance, back to being in the mix for a Super Bowl. We're just back all of a sudden.
Well, back to believing. You know, I think one of the big things about Broncos fans these last 5 years is we have not been able to believe they had a chance to win a Super Bowl. Playoffs, that's for other organizations. That's a stepping stool. But for the Broncos organization, Pat Bowlen's legacy of being first in everything, you want to believe these Broncos can win the Super Bowl. And for a long part of the franchise's history, they have been in contention. They are back in contention now.
We got the right. Oh, come on, baby.
Sierra.
Woo!
Yeah, Troy, the Broncos are now the third favorites to win the AFC behind the Bills and the Chiefs. So all of a sudden, this one move, they're Super Bowl contenders.
When they lost out on Rodgers, suddenly the Broncos were a long shot for the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl. Within an hour, now they have a chance to win the AFC. It's dizzying, but it's true. Now you can line up in the AFC West against Mahomes, against Herbert, and against Carr, and feel like you can beat them. That was not the case since Peyton Manning retired. They haven't beaten the Chiefs since Peyton Manning retired. That is going to change now. Also in the AFC, you're dealing with Josh Allen, you're dealing with Joe Burrow, you're dealing with Lamar Jackson, all these greats. Now you have a guy. You have a guy that on every Sunday you feel like you have a chance because Russell Wilson is that good, Lionel.
Well, the Broncos gave up Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris, 2 number-1 draft picks, 2 number 2s, and a number 5. Ryan, all worth it for a franchise quarterback?
Absolutely. I mean, none of those players combined had us this excited in a half of a day than Russell Wilson has. And here's the other thing. This also lessens your costs in free agency. Now, is an Amari Cooper willing to do a 1-year deal at $3 to $5 million to play with Russell Wilson? What other veterans can you get in free agency who will give you away some money for the chance to play on a Russell Wilson team? So a lot of excitement and a lot of impact by just this decision.
The Peyton Manning effect, Troy, it could be the same here because this changes everything. The draft, free agency. Talk about the ripple effect from this trade.
Yeah, I mean, players will want to come here. We saw that with Emmanuel Sanders to leave, Ware, T.J. Ward when they had Peyton Manning. You will have players, as Ryan talked about, that will want to come and play with Russell Wilson. Now in the draft, you're just looking to fill in the nuances, fill in around the margins. When you have the quarterback, Lionel, that is the son of the universe. Now you just have to find little satellites. Now you don't have to be perfect in every other move because Russell Wilson can help camouflage it.
Yes! 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 Yes!
How does Russell Wilson fit into this new offense? New head coach Nate Hackett, new offensive coordinator Justin Houghton. Does he step right in without missing a beat, Ryan?
Absolutely. Russell Wilson's been running the West Coast offense. And don't forget, Nathaniel Hackett said he wants to go downtown. Well, one of the best quarterbacks at completion percentage over 20 yards is consistently Russell Wilson. Tyler Lockett says hello, DK Metcalf. So now not only do you have a quarterback who can stretch the field, but also a quarterback who knows when to stretch that field. And that's a big difference. When a quarterback can hold back on that nature, hold back on that deep ball, but then deliver it at the right time, that keeps defenses guessing and keeps you winning football games.
We assume Rodgers would be the best fit. He had his former offensive coordinator and best friend Nate Hackett now running the show here. But Troy, is getting Russell Wilson better than getting Aaron Rodgers?
Well, listen, it might not be this season because Rodgers is back-to-back MVP. But over the aggregate of the trade, yes, it will, because Russell Wilson, for me, prior to last season, was a top 5 quarterback, and he's still in that discussion. He's also 33. Rodgers is 38, and Wilson is going to continue to age like Benjamin Button because he's addicted to football and working out. He could play till he's 40, so that is why I love this deal. Everyone says they're going all in. They are, but they're going all in over maybe 5 to 7 years, Lionel, so it allows George Paton to bring the draft back into the equation in a couple years. I love everything about this move, starting with the fact that Wilson is 5 years younger than Aaron Rodgers.
Ryan, what does this say about George Paton?
What you learned about George Paton today is that he wants to win a championship. And players can feel that. You can feel that in the building when the GM's making moves, maybe taking some of your best players away without an adequate return. But now you're bringing in one of the best players in the NFL. That tells everybody on the roster, go back to the gym again. You got to train for a second time today because you're getting ready to win a championship.
In a related story, Von Miller was all over social media on Monday. Guys sending out hints he would like to come back to the Broncos. Does Russell Wilson coming here change any of that? And what would Von bring back to this locker room?
If Von wants to come back, he's earned himself, Lionel, a contract probably in the neighborhood of 2 years to $34 million, maybe half of that guaranteed. If he wants to come back to the Broncos, he'd have to be thinking in terms of what, 10, maybe 12 a year? Would he be willing to do that to return home to Broncos country? He's beloved here. I just don't know if they can make the math work, but it's definitely that door is ajar.
Well, there you have it, everybody. From Peyton Manning to 11 different starting quarterbacks and now to Russell Wilson. This is one of the biggest days in Broncos history. On that note, Alexis, let's go back to you.
Thanks, guys. It's an exciting time here in Broncos country, no doubt. Still to come, I caught up with Assistant General Manager Darren Mougey when he returned from the 2022 NFL Combine to get his impressions of this year's draft class. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Country Connected. Last week, the new era of Broncos football officially began as George Paton, Nathaniel Hackett, and many members of the staff took their first business trip together for the NFL Scouting Combine. Broncos Assistant General Manager Darren Mougey was there to get a closer look at the 2022 draft class, so I caught up with him yesterday to get his takeaways after spending the week in Indianapolis. How does a new staff really impact your evaluation of draft prospects?
They do, and we just kind of went through that process a week ago. We like to get all the staff together. We kind of talk about what they need in their scheme, what players fit their scheme, whether it's offensive linemen, what they're looking for, athletic guys, gap scheme guys, zone scheme guys, defensive philosophy, what they need up front, what they need from their backers, what they're asking their defensive backs to do. So we had all those meetings last week, and I've been here through some coaching changes, so it's a common practice, but these guys have been great. They're very clear. They have a clear vision of the guys they want. We've seen it. They've showed us examples of players they've played with, and I think it's going to be good. George is very collaborative. The communication's great, which helps all of us. It helps us scout with a clearer vision, and it helps us, the coaches are getting guys that they know they like.
Right. Well, you and many members of the staff were just in Indianapolis for the Combine. For those who have never experienced the Combine, how would you describe the process, not only for a staff, but the players as well?
Yeah, the Combine. It's just another step in the process. A ton of information is gathered there, and it's not just what you see on TV. Obviously, we're all getting the times, and we're getting to see these players work out, which is great. We get to see these guys in person, see them move back to back to back. But we're also gathering a ton of information behind the scene, whether it's in the formal interviews with George and Coach Hackett and the position coaches, the informal interviews where the coaches are kind of sitting one-on-one, a little more relaxed environment so they get to know the players. And then we have guys working behind the scenes. Saywan Joe, one of our area scouts, he's working the flex station, so he's getting to see these guys interact kind of behind the curtains on the floor. Gino Armstrong, he's timing 40s. We got Scotty DeStefano, one of our longtime scouts. He's working as kind of a group leader with the offensive line. Ray Jackson, he helps with interviews for the combine too. So we've got all these scouts behind the scene that are constantly collecting information as well, whether how these guys, like I said, interact, how they take coaching, how they treat the people. And it's just another step in the process for us to gather a ton of information, continue to build these profiles on these guys so we really feel good about each individual player in April coming up to the draft. So if we take one of these guys, we know what we're getting.
What was your overall impression of the 2022 draft class?
It's a good one. You know, it's a good class. There's a good group of outside backers, inside backers. Really, there's kind of talent everywhere. And I think it's going to be really good in those mid rounds, second to fourth round, fifth round. There's going to be a lot of good value there. So I'm excited about that. Brian Stark, our college director, has done a great job. You know, another thing, going back to the combine, it's a chance for all of us to kind of meet up again. You know, we don't see all these road scouts all the time. And when we're all there together, it allows us to kind of really meet in person, catch up. We have a dinner. And like I said, Brian Stark does a great job of organizing it all for us, communicating, kind of being the filter through us. But we've had a lot of conversations in the last week about this draft, and we feel good about it. Stark, myself, George, about where this value is, and we think there's good value. And we got a lot of picks, which will be good because I think we can continue to add to this roster with young talent.
What does this team look for in a future Bronco?
First and foremost, really is the character. You know, we've done a great job of bringing in high character guys, and I'm not just talking about football character, but personal character guys. People that are good people on and off the field. They got to have high care factor, coachable, and our scouts do a great job of that. That's really who we lean on, and that's kind of, you know, where the foundation is. These guys, they're going behind the scenes and getting 3 and 4 years of history on these guys and what their makeup is, and we lean on those scouts for that information, and we weight that heavily because we don't want to bring in bad people, you know, and we haven't done that, and we'll continue to do that. So in terms of Bronco traits, aside from the obvious being good players, they got to have good makeup as people.
Well, in terms of this current roster, what do you see as the greatest strength of this roster, and how do you guys build upon that this offseason?
You know, the roster's good. We got a lot of key pieces all over. You know, our left tackle, Bowles. We've got the 2 wideouts, Cortland. I mean, really 3. We got a ton of offensive weapons between Cortland, Judy, TP, Alberto, the young runner. We got a bunch of skill positions on offense, and on defense, we got a lot of young talent and good players as well. With Chubb coming back, Pat Surtain. We obviously got Justin Simmons. Stern's a young player. Josie Jewell's been good inside. So we've got a lot of good pieces everywhere. We just want to continue to add good young players, depth that play themselves into roles in the future.
Well, still to come here on Broncos Country Connected, we'll look back on the Hall of Fame career of Broncos icon Steve Atwater.
Broncos Country Connected is presented by Carpet Mill Outlets. Bigger discounts, better selections.
Welcome back to this final segment of Broncos Country Connected, presented by Ford. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been reliving some of the most lustrous careers in Broncos history. Tonight, we continue our Broncos Icon series with a look back on the Hall of Fame career of safety Steve Atwater. For more on how Steve earned his nickname as the Smiling Assassin, here's NFL historian Andrew Mason.
Take it to the promised land, baby. Showtime, baby. Showtime in the Mile High City.
The buzz for Steve Atwater when he came to Denver, first of all, people did not expect him to be the first safety off the board in the draft. Most draftniks thought Louis Oliver out of Florida was going to be the number 1 safety. Steve Atwater was regarded by some as even a little bit of a linebacker safety hybrid. The top 10 of the draft passes and Oliver doesn't get taken. He starts sliding through the draft. The Broncos have traded down from 13 to 19 and they pick Atwater, and you look back at the draft broadcast, there's some surprise that, oh, Louis Oliver's still on the board. Why didn't they take him?
Denver has gone with the safety. You surprised?
Well, I'm surprised if you were going to go with a safety that you wouldn't go with Oliver. There must be an unspoken reason why they have not.
And as it turned out, Dan Reeves would later say that in the draft room, there was a debate between Atwater and Louis Oliver. Ultimately, it's Charlie Waters, former Cowboys safety, Broncos assistant, so he knew a lot about playing safety, who identified Steve Atwater as the guy to pick of those two, and the Broncos are thankful every day for Charlie Waters' instinct on that. Steve's playing style was all about intimidation. You still had that core of safeties who could make hits across the middle and tell receivers, hey, you're not coming here. And with Steve, what took it to another level is being 6'4", being 220 plus pounds, looking like a linebacker coming down. He could do that to running backs as well. And so basically the middle of the field was a place that no one wanted to go because you knew Atwater would punish you for doing that. So he changed how teams had to play the Broncos.
Line up even, about 8 yards, me and you both. And stem late.
The pairing of Atwater and Smith was as good as you're going to find for any safety tandem in NFL history, and they meshed so well. Dennis Smith could hit, but he had great range about him, and he kept that range well into his 30s, of course, playing all the way through the 1994 season, and then Steve could go in the box and terrorize running backs. It was a perfect strong safety, free safety pairing between the two of them. And then, of course, Dennis Smith, already having 8 years under his belt of experience when Steve Atwater came in, could counsel Steve. Anything that Steve missed, Dennis Smith was there. He helped Steve become the great player that he eventually became.
Good try, baby.
The Christian Okoye hit defined Steve's career because, first of all, it happened at the right time. No offense to big moments on Sunday afternoon, but when you do it on Monday Night Football, at the time when Monday Night Football was the biggest game of the week, everybody took notice. And then what took it to the other level was Steve had been mic'd up.
They got Okoye at fullback. I don't give a he play wide receiver.
And NFL Films, of course, was able to have the film of him from that night and do a little package on him, and they would rerun it over and over. And so you had these two outlets, the national broadcast and then NFL Films, that successfully put that hit into the greater consciousness beyond Broncos country. And when it came time to talk about his Hall of Fame case, some safeties, unfortunately, they have big plays, but they don't have a moment that everybody remembers. Well, everyone who's in that Hall of Fame selection room remembers watching Steve Atwater get that hit. That's a moment that sticks in the mind and sticks in the heart.
Blitz. Atwater makes the hit. Is it a fumble? If it is, it's Denver's ball.
Super Bowl 32 is one of Steve's all-time games because he has a sack of Brett Favre. He literally, at the end, knocks out his own teammate with a hit. Kind of like John Elway on the other side, Steve played that game with a determination that took himself to another level. He hadn't been through as many Super Bowl losses as John Elway, but Super Bowl 24, the Broncos lost when he was a rookie. It was something that he remembered and he did not want to experience again. So not that he didn't have fire in other games, but he brought a little something extra. Very much a guided missile, the way he was hitting people throughout that game. And you could have made a case for him being the MVP, probably right behind Terrell Davis, as far as the most important player in the Broncos winning Super Bowl 32. Steve Atwater is a Broncos icon, first of all because of how he played, with ferocity, with intensity, and how well he played. Second of all, for what kind of person he is. Early on in his rookie career, he was called the Smiling Assassin. That was a nickname that came from within the Broncos. And it fit him so perfectly because here was this guy who would be a holy terror on the field, but then you took the pads off and he's the nicest human being you'd ever want to meet. And that dichotomy, it's really tough for players to kind of walk that line, but he did that so well. So he made himself into somebody that the fans love, not just because of the big hits, but because of who and what he was in the community. And then the cherry on the sundae here is Steve Atwater returning to Denver, working for the Broncos, and being a day-to-day part of Broncos country once again, allowing a new generation to celebrate who and what Steve Atwater is. A true Broncos icon, Steve Atwater.
Thanks, Mace. Well, if you're a fan of Steve Atwater, and honestly, who isn't? The Broncos broadcast team is working on a 2-hour special on the life and career of the Hall of Famer. Here's an early heads up. That program will air right here on Denver 7, Thursday, April 21st at 8 p.m. Set a reminder so you don't forget. That'll do it for Broncos Country Connected. From all of us here with the Denver Broncos and Denver 7, thanks for watching.
Broncos Country Connected is brought to you by Ford Trucks. Built better, built stronger, built Ford tough.